Hello everyone, welcome back. And Barcelona just beat Newcastle 2-1 in the Champions League thanks to a Marcus Rashford brace. That first goal, what a great header, but that second one, to take it upon himself to decide the game for Barcelona from there, that shot power, his ball striking ability, everything, it was all on display today. And back in England and scores a brace to help Barcelona win their first Champions League game. I'm so excited. What a game to watch. And Marcus Rashford, hats off for that incredible performance. And I want to talk about how I think Barcelona played this game because they slowly worked their way into this game. I think they started off pretty slow, and I think Newcastle were very excited. They were eager to, kind of make that impression in front of their home fans. And so they were pressing nonstop. Barcelona really could not pass out of their own half. And slowly but surely, then Frenkie de Jong and Pedri, their quality showed. And Barcelona were able to really get more of a footprint in the game and have a little bit more control. And then you saw Barcelona kind of take over and dominate as the game continued. And I think Barcelona's defense, they didn't look very exposed. I think Joan Garcia, I've been so impressed with him. I think he made a couple big saves. Maybe one was offsides, but to make that save anyways was very impressive. And maybe some Barca fans would be a little bit worried because it was a little bit nervy at the end of the game when they let in that late goal to Anthony Gordon in the 90th minute. And then you thought, are they going to end up drawing this game? But my cat just knocked the phone over. But, Barcelona did concede a goal in the last couple minutes. But to hold strong and to win 2-1, that's the most important thing. And I think overall, they did have a pretty dominant performance in my eyes. I think, especially without Lamine Yamal, who, in my opinion, is the best. I don't want to say the best player on the team because there are so many great players. But in terms of the most creative and being the difference maker, of course, Pedri, you could put him in there as well. But Lamine Yamal, he's the bright spark on that right-hand side. He makes things happen. And I'm not trying to say that Rafinha wasn't good in this game. I just think he's a different type of player. But Marcus Rashford, he kind of was that creative outlet today. I don't think Fermin Lopez had that many opportunities to get on the ball and to try and make things happen. I think Pedri and Frenkie de Jong, as I said, they worked their way into the game. But Marcus Rashford, he was the guy you wanted on the ball in this game because he was taking Trippier on. He was making things happen. And he was running at the defense, making it difficult for Newcastle to kind of feel comfortable in that game. And again, he was the difference maker. Jules Koundé, that was a good ball in the box. It was pretty shaky marking from Newcastle to leave Marcus Rashford that free, but he still had a lot to do when he got in that position. So very impressed with that header that he had to put it in the side net. But then that second goal, genuinely, just hats off for a moment like that. And you just saw the relief on his face when he scored that first goal. You hadn't seen him smile like that in years in his professional career because he's obviously went through a difficult moment with Manchester United. But to be at Barcelona and to be in the Champions League scoring goals like this, it shows you still have the quality to play at the top level. And I think it was just that weight off his shoulders, because obviously he did well in preseason for Barcelona, but this is exactly what you wanted for him in a game like this. And you felt like it's in England, right? You have to start Marcus Rashford. And he made the absolute most of the opportunity that Hansi Flick gave him today. And I want to go through and give player ratings for all the Barcelona players that were on the pitch today because I think we saw a lot of very impressive performances. And I think it's always fun to just talk about how players were doing. But I'll start from the back. Joan Garcia, I want to give an 8 out of 10. I think he did have a couple huge saves. Obviously, he could do nothing for that Gordon goal in the last couple minutes of the game. But he made some big saves. I know one of those were offsides, but he didn't know that. And you thought for certain he was going to score. I think Harvey Barnes had basically a backdoor tap-in. But Joan Garcia still made it difficult for him to score and kept Barcelona in the game in that moment. I've been so impressed with Joan Garcia. I just think his distribution is very good as well. He's such a good shot stopper, and that's exactly what you wanted. And I don't want to slander, Ter Stegen. I don't want to slander other Barca goalkeepers, but Barca would have conceded more than one goal in that game if someone else was playing in place of Joan Garcia. He's such a big difference maker so far at the beginning of the season. Been so impressed with him. So I'll give him an 8 out of 10. And then moving into the right back, I think Koundé, he did have the assist for Marcus Rashford's goal. He also did lose his man. Obviously that's a difficult moment because you don't want to foul Gordon because he has a tap in. I just think he, just should have gotten in a better position there. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I think he did have some good moments. I think in possession, he looked pretty promising going forward. So I think 7 out of 10 is fair. And then Pau Cubarsí and Ronald Araujo, I'll just give 7s each. I do think they had pretty good moments. I think Araujo, in terms of, blocking shots, getting his body on the line, he did good. I think Cubarsí in possession didn't really have as many chances to kind of build up from the back as other games, but I think it was just due to Newcastle's press, and they were really making it difficult for Barcelona to break through. And then Gerard Martin, I think I'll give a 6. I think he did well. I think Alenga on Newcastle is obviously such a quick player. And so for someone like Gerard Martin, that's going to be a mismatch because he's just a little bit sluggish and he's just not that type of player. But I think for what he had, he made the most of it. And I think Alenga, even though he had some great moments and he was Newcastle's brightest spark, which I was surprised that their coach took him off, because I think if anything was going to happen, it would be from him. But it obviously helped Barcelona. So Gerard Martin, I'll give a 6 out of 10. And then moving into the midfield, Pedri, I think at the beginning, you wanted to say Barcelona are not maintaining possession. They're not really being dominant in this game, and they don't have much control. And that was because Pedri was not able to get on the ball. I think obviously Newcastle was doing a very good job marking him, but Barcelona players could not find him. And then he just finally, found his way into this game. And that's exactly the moment that Barcelona kind of changed the tide and made this game theirs. And that shows the importance of Pedri. So I'm going to just give him an 8.5 out of 10. I think I've definitely seen him have better games than that, which is crazy because it was such a good performance. Honestly, I'll go 9. But the standard that he's playing at this year is incredible. Like, that wasn't even one of the better games that we've seen from him. But that's his normal game right now, is a 9 out of 10. So he was so good. I think Frenkie de Jong as well, I feel like deserves a 9. I think he was really helpful in the way that Barcelona wanted to maintain control and possession. I think both of those players were so good. And really those two players, that's the difference between Barcelona and other midfields around the world, because Newcastle has a good midfield, but it's nowhere close to Barcelona. It's nowhere close to players like Frenkie de Jong and Pedri. And that's why they were able to do so much in this game. And then moving on to Fermin Lopez, honestly, I want to give him praise because I don't think he had that good of a performance. In terms of being on the ball, he's usually much more of a difference maker, creating chances, kind of taking people on and finding himself in the right place at the right time and usually scoring. But today wasn't the case for that. I just don't think he had that many opportunities when he was on the ball. But even when he doesn't have the best performance, I still think he's giving a ton to Barcelona just in terms of his energy and pressing and tracking back. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I think that was a positive performance from him, even though he didn't really have that many opportunities on the ball. And then moving to Rafinha, I think that was one of his more quiet games. I think he had a couple opportunities, but obviously when it's him and Lamine Yamal together, I think they just complement each other so well because Rafinha has someone to kind of see the runs that he's making. He just didn't have that many opportunities to get in behind. So I'll just give him a 6 out of 10. I think that was just a standard game for Rafinha. Lewandowski also just give a 6. I don't think he had that many opportunities, but he was kind of doing some of the dirty work, trying to hold the play up. But Marcus Rashford, you have to give him a 10 out of 10 because he took this game over. And it wasn't even just the 2 goals. I think he was running at Newcastle so well, and that's exactly what you wanted. You said, I have high hopes for Rashford because we've seen what he can do, and this is the player that he is, and this is exactly what he can offer at Barcelona, because there are not many players in the squad that could pull up from where he did in the second half and score that goal. But I also think the header was very good as well. Like, I don't want to discredit that because he scored just a worldie for the second. So 2 great goals to help Barcelona win the game. Absolutely 10 out of 10. Man of the match from him. I'm just so happy to see him happy because I know he's went through a ton of scrutiny in his career. And, people are watching him with just a bird's eye view, right? He whatever he does wrong, they slander him. So Marcus Rashford, just so class today. I'm just so happy to see him smiling because he just went through a lot in his career. So just such a great moment from him today. And Barcelona, yeah, those are the player ratings for me because I think everyone had a very good game today. But as I said, I think maybe some Barca fans at the beginning of the game when they watched it, they would be a little bit concerned about how the game was going to go because Newcastle, they were just pinning Barcelona back. And I know there were a couple of times when Barca would try and play out through Cubarsí and Joan Garcia, and they just couldn't get anything going. And it seemed a little bit worrying. It's like, are we going to get overrun in this game? But when a team plays like that, it's just difficult to keep that up for 90 minutes, to press you, to pin you back for so long. And so you just felt like Barcelona were going to slowly ease their way into this game, and that's exactly what they did. And again, it was really the moments that Pedri and Frenkie de Jong actually got opportunities on the ball. And obviously, if I'm an opposition player, I want them touching the ball as little as possible because Frenkie, all the technical abilities that he has, just to be able to keep possession so well, and he's always making the smart passes, just always able to kind of dominate for Barcelona and dictate the tempo. And the same exact thing with Pedri, although he's, going forward a little bit more. So both of those players were so good and obviously standout players in this game as well. And really, that's the way that Barcelona got back into this game. I do think they did struggle at times to find a way to be creative, but I don't want to take anything away from Newcastle. It's a difficult game away from home in the Champions League. There's a ton of energy from them. So I didn't expect this game to be a walk in the park. It was going to be difficult. And of course, without Lamine Yamal, your most creative player on your team, you could struggle at moments in this game. And that's what I think Barcelona did. But I was impressed with their defense. I think, of course, sometimes teams will just counter so easily against Barcelona and they look very exposed. But I think they played pretty compact today. I don't think they made it easy for Newcastle. Joan Garcia came up with a couple big saves, which even if your defense is incredible, you still need a goalkeeper to come up massive for you, especially in the Champions League. So I'm just really happy with the way that Barcelona, they imposed themselves more and more in this game. And I think it was dominance. I don't think as close as the 2-1 scoreline. I think Barcelona did have control for the majority of this game. But yeah, I'm just so happy with this. And as always, VISCA Barca, it's just moments like this. I was at work. I just had to watch this game, and it was so worth it. I loved watching this team play. They have so many exciting players, and even though they were missing Lamine, that was a big talking point in the first half. But then Marcus Rashford, you have players like that. You have players like Rafinha and Pedri and Frankie de Jong. There were so many standouts for me today, but of course, none other than Marcus Rashford. I'm so happy to see him kind of get off the mark for Barcelona, and that's where you feel like the commentators were saying this. It's like, that's where he arrived. That moment when he scored that second goal is when he really arrived at Barcelona. Not that the first goal, of course, wasn't amazing, and he didn't also arrive then, but just that second goal, that's pure Marcus Rashford, just being able to strike the ball like that. And I've seen a lot of people talk about his ball striking ability, and there's almost no one better in the world than that, because to put that crossbar in, far post, you just felt like when you saw him dribbling on the right-hand side, it was like you have to hit it. You have to shoot in that corner, and he pulled it off just brilliantly. So, again, I'm just so happy with him scoring that goal, but also with the way that Barcelona played. It was not going to be an easy game, but they got it done. And especially in the Champions League, every game is very important, and in the group stage, you want to get off to a good start. I think Barcelona did place second in the group stage behind Liverpool in the last season, but it wasn't like Barcelona needed to win this game, right? They have 8 games. You can lose one, but they went for it. They did not go in there to look for a tie, and they were just the better team today. And so it's just really important, and it's great to get your Champions League campaign started off with a big win against a good opponent. So overall, just so happy with everything. I think Hansi Flick got the substitutes. He got the starting lineup right. All around, great performance today. But yeah, I don't think I have much else to say. I do want to start playing FIFA. I know it comes out tomorrow, so I'd like to maybe get a Road to Glory. I've always wanted to do that, but just trying to get back into YouTube a little bit. Just haven't had it that much time, but I want to make it a priority because I love talking about Barcelona. I love talking with you all, so hope you all been doing great, and VISCA Barca as always. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all later. Peace.